Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to this edition of Flock Friday, even though we're having it on a Monday because it's a funky week. Ravens play on the Sunday, then they got a game on Thursday against the Cincinnati Bengals on Thanksgiving. We're really excited to break it all down. To do it, I'm joined by the CEO and founder of Snapback Sports, but most importantly, a diehard Baltimore Ravens fan, Jack Settleman. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, brother. Excited to be here. Excited. We've won 5 in a row. Excited for Thanksgiving without Ravens football. I was actually thinking about it today. I didn't tweet it, but the thought crossed my mind. Is it good that we're playing on Thanksgiving? They might ruin my favorite holiday, or they're going to make it even better. So we'll see. We'll see what they do.
You know what? Part of me is like, personally, I love the holiday games. Like, I love the Christmas games. I knew they weren't going to put us on Christmas again, but that was such a fun environment. Like, it's something to look forward to. I mean, my life operates around sports and, frankly, around this football team. So the fact that I can get the family out early and get 3 hours of my Thanksgiving night to just go and watch football, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Jack Settleman, we have so much to break down. I think we should maybe start with yesterday's game. And first of all, for the audience, I did put the call-in link on YouTube. I'm going to be putting it in Twitter momentarily. So if you guys want to call in, please comment throughout. We're willing to answer questions, talk to you guys on the air. So please be sure to call in if you guys do have a chance. We're so happy to have Jack here. Jack Settleman, before we break down the nitty-gritty of this football team, just generally, 1-5, now 5 in a row, 6-5 in the top of the AFC North. How are we feeling?
I feel good. People are okay. How long have you been a fan for, Chase?
Since Lamar's rookie year. I've been the fan
okay.
since in the Lamar
era. So you've been here for the Lamar era. I still can't get over Kyle Hamilton's comment about spoiled fans, and I will back him up until the day he dies, because we are so spoiled. We just won 5 straight games, yet it's still just incessant complaints. And I understand that there's definitely a world where, like, we're not satisfied with it. We have Super Bowl expectations, but, like, they've won 5 in a row, and then there's a problem here, and then there's a problem here. At some point, I need everyone to understand you will only be a miserable person if every time the Ravens win, you're still upset. Just remember 5 weeks ago, it was the first time, I'm sure, of your life watching the Ravens, and even a lot of mine, that it was genuinely like Sunday at 1 hit and you were not excited at all. At least we're now excited. And I get it, we didn't score in the first 2 drives of the game, but it doesn't mean the world is ending. The thing that I'm excited about from the Ravens, and I get it, Lamar hasn't been great. He's obviously dinged up. The line isn't perfect. There's plenty of flaws. By the way, there's a flaw in every team in football this year. Like, this is the most open league it's ever been, and there's no dominant team. And while Lamar is struggling, or the offense isn't flowing as we expect it to, first time in Ravens history, 5 straight games, scoring 20 and allowing less than 20. We didn't blow the lead against Minnesota, when everyone knows that's a game we definitely would have blown in the past. And yesterday, and Cleveland was a great example of a professional football team, a team who knows how to find a way how to win. When the Chiefs do it, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a way. That's why they're going to get picked in the playoffs. All the Ravens have exhibited, and I get it, it's against poor competition, but they've shown the character traits of winning football, of gritting it out, of forcing turnovers. Breece Hall almost scored yesterday, and that game's a completely different game. But you know what? Marlon made a play. And this is something that we need to do in the playoffs. But Draymond Jones finally got to the quarterback, and Mike Green is getting near the quarterback. So all the frustration, I get it. It's not perfect, but we also don't want to peak in late November, because we've seen that from the Ravens before. We want to get better as a football team, and I think they're doing that. And it just so happens to coincide with a generous schedule, which is like a blessing, because they also had to go through a gauntlet to start the season. That's what people forget. It's like, we knew it was going to be rough, and then it was going to get easy. It was way rougher, and now hopefully it's way easier.
I think that the story's been obviously a tale of 2 seasons, it feels like, before the bye and after the bye, or I guess you could say before the Alohi Gillen trade and after the Alohi Gillen trade. But I mean, I think it's funny how everything aligned, or more so ironic. In the beginning of the year, when the Ravens were playing their weakest defensive play and still figuring out all these different variables, and we're the most injured team in the league, mind you, that's when they happen to have the hardest schedule. Like, they just so happened to run into the biggest gauntlet on the 17-game schedule while they were dealing with all their problems. On the flip side, they're also peaking right now, at least compared to where they were at the beginning of the year, and doing it against easy competition. So I still feel like the jury is still out on this team. And I said that too when this team was 1-5, and I predicted them to go and win 5 games in a row, possibly more, and be 6-5 and be back in the mix. I said that I would be sitting here and still saying that the jury is still out because of the competition that they have beaten. I think what's very interesting is, look, the Ravens have not played fantastic football, right? I have friends that are texting me all the time and calling me all the time. And they're like, you really think this team is a playoff contender the way they're playing? I have two friends that are Jets fans, and they're texting me, mocking me the entire day yesterday because the Ravens did not play a great game against the Jets. But you said it best. Peaking in late November does nothing for you. Ravens fans have seen what it's like to peak in November. It does nothing for you. It's not that satisfying. You need to peak when it matters most. And so for me, when I look at this Baltimore Ravens team, I'm looking at a team that doesn't look cohesive. Contrary to John Harbaugh's belief, still doesn't have the best 5 out there on their offensive line. Lamar Jackson's playing the weakest football we've seen from him in a long time, at least in this contract extension from 2023 and on. And it still feels like there are a lot of moving parts, and they've still won 5 in a row against NFL competition. Like, that's still something to be said. And the Bears are 8-3, right? No one's going to give the Ravens credit there. But even if you don't think they're good, they're still 8-3, right? So you got to consider that somewhat of a quality win. So for me, what I find interesting is maybe they could turn this around. I don't think really that this Baltimore team is as good as their 2024 team or their 2023 team or their 2019 team. And I was said that online, and a lot of people were like, then why do you think this team could still win a Super Bowl? Those teams didn't get it done. But that's also the point, is this is a different team than those teams. And you talked about some of the character traits that are needed to win football games. That's been the main thing that has stood out, is like, again, weaker competition, but like, the Ravens are finding ways to win games they would usually lose. I was literally sitting on my couch like, oh, of course the Ravens are going to blow this game to Minnesota. Like, been there, done that, got that t-shirt. Week 1 against Buffalo. I've seen this before. But they didn't. I saw a game where Lamar Jackson had 2 turnovers, and the Ravens lost the turnover battle, and we're on the road against a division rival. I'm like, oh, they're going to lose that game too. They didn't. And so while this team I don't think is as good as their other teams, there's something different about them that I think could allow them to peak come postseason time and make a big run.
100%. And that is why nothing is perfect. I'm not trying to convince people that everything is all good and jolly and, that you should be so pumped up. But every knock on John Harbaugh and this Ravens team was they can't close games. They can't win on the road against division opponents. They always have the letdown spot. If they fall behind, they're screwed. Lamar's hurt. How are they going to win with the backup quarterback? How do you not have a game plan? Okay, you know what? Cooper Rush, he was the wrong answer. But instead of sticking with it, they made the move and they adjusted. And guess what? They won the next game. So I think that it's just, you can kill Harbaugh, you can kill Monken, you can kill Orr. I do think so many people lost sight of how injured that team was when they were playing those really good teams. Like, I'm not talking about like they're missing. I think Kyle's going to sit on Thursday. I don't think he's going to be able to play. Okay, so that'll be a really good test for this defense against Joe Burrow coming back, 100%.
Right.
That will not excuse a 40-point performance from the Bengals, right? You can't lose Kyle and let up 40 points. But when you lose Matabike on a short week, and then you lose 2 other interior guys, and then Roquan's out with a hamstring, and then another guy's out in the secondary. It's like you're playing the Lions down 6 defensive starters. Like, we should have a little grace to everyone on the defense. So once again, I feel like I'm having what is it? Not PTSD, but I'm going through it over again. Deja vu. I'm having deja vu because last year I recorded a podcast with Marlon Humphrey, and everyone on Twitter, in my mentions, in my DMs, fire Zach Orr. And I had to say, guys, Zach Orr, Marlon is telling me, Kyle Hamilton's telling me Zach Orr's not the problem. And then we run through the same thing again. I'm like, guys, he doesn't have guys. Like, you want Keon Martin playing quarterback too? Meanwhile, he's like my favorite player on the team. But you just have to, at some point, you have to have the guys. And so while the Ravens aren't the most talented they've been in different years, they still have a level of talent that can go win a Super Bowl. And that's what's most important.
For sure. And I want to put up some comments here real quick. It also helps that y'all's division isn't good. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does help for sure that while the Ravens aren't playing their best football and they have an easy schedule, that they're able to make up for what almost seem like an insurmountable 1-5 start because their division is weak. It's 100% important, right? And that's why there's always an element of luck in football. Now we have an Eagles fan. Ravens legit stink. Please mention that. Look, again, I've said this. I don't think they're that good right now. I also don't care if they're good right now. Like, it means nothing to me if they're good on what is it now, November 24th. As long as they are winning football games and get into the postseason and get hot, then I don't care. If this team never gets to the proficiency, then that's a problem.
We've this. I'm telling you, 23 is what ended it for me. At first, it was like, okay, you don't want to have to go on the road, right? And in the playoffs, so you got to win the division. Then it was, well, you got to get home field. We lost at home with the best team we've ever had, right? Behind the M&T Bank crowd. Like, at this point, it doesn't matter. It clearly doesn't matter whether you have home field, you have the bye, you have away, who are you playing? Like, you just got to get in and learn from your mistakes, and you got to force a turnover in the playoffs. Like, it's as simple as that. You force a turnover.
That's the thing too, is everyone loves to blame Lamar Jackson. I know you did that thing, 1 Lamar fan versus 10 Lamar haters, and I love that because, first of all, those people were extremely irrational, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But like, it's an interesting point of like, no one talks about how Mahomes had 2 turnovers in a Super Bowl that he won and won Super Bowl MVP in. It's because his team made up for his mistakes. I'm not saying Lamar can continue to play this way and win in the playoffs. He will need to kick it into high gear like he does in the regular season. But at the same time, I bet you the game turns out different if the 3-0 turnover differential is 3-1 or 3-2. And that 100% changes the game. And even with a 3-0 turnover differential, Baltimore still almost won the game. If Andrews doesn't drop the ball, they probably still win the game, even with all those mistakes. So if the barometer for mistakes, right, if you're even at 0-0 in the turnover battle, if you just don't have that insane 3-0 swing that we continue to see, you're in a better spot. And the Ravens just need to get to that point in the playoffs.
Yeah. And this is another thing that sometimes people forget, and they hate on Lamar for it, or Ravens fans get frustrated by it. Like, we're all humans, right? We're all people. Chase, if my expectation of you is that this would be your final form and you are never going to get smarter, you're never going to learn from experience over time, right? Do you think you would work for CBS today? No. But your goal, right, is to go be a broadcaster at CBS Sports, or you want to go, and everyone's expectation is, you know what, Chase? You have time to learn and to grow. Well, let's just look at this football team in a similar light. I know it's frustrating as hell that we turned the ball over 3 times and we lost to Buffalo. I know that we blew the opportunity against Kansas City and we shouldn't have panicked. But all we're doing is adding different learnings to where I'm like, we're going to have seen everything at this point. Like, you're not going to be able to panic.
This is literally, I mean, they're not a cursed franchise given how well they've done, but the ways that they lose in the playoffs, like, this fan base has seen it all too. Like,
you've seen it all. If you're Tyler Huntley or now Lamar Jackson, don't reach over the goal line unless you're in. If you're Lamar, like, that you can actually spare a turnover or 2 and not spike your helmet. If you're the defense, you can have a terrible first half at Buffalo, but you can lock in the second half, and it's a 60-minute game. And so you're going to have learned time and time again. And I know people don't like to learn because they want to win now. And when you have Lamar Jackson, it feels like you should win every year. I get it. But that's why we're just at a point. It feels like we're the Chiefs without the success, right? We've found ways to win the last 5 games. We've seen everything in the playoffs. Now it's a small sample size, right? We've played 7 playoff games. That is not enough of a sample size to make no scientist would ever make a decision on that. If I told you that how good is this quarterback going to be after 7 NFL games, you would say, I have no clue. It's been 7 freaking games. But in the playoffs, because the pressure is so high, we scope it so hard. Everyone just give it time. Lamar Jackson is going to win a Super Bowl. That's there's the trending tweet I think Kevin put out, like, what's a Ravens opinion that, that would get you yelled at or whatever. And I see one trending that's like, Lamar won't win a Super Bowl with the Ravens. How could you feel that way? I get the frustration. I get the anger.
Jack, let me cut you off. I guess the way that you would feel that way is just like, again, not saying that Lamar is a worse quarterback than Allen and Burrow. I've gone through those debates so many times, and frankly, I'm tired of it. If you think Burrow or Allen are better, I don't care. I'll give it to you. Like, I'm so tired of debating it. But I think that there is an element of, like, even though Burrow hasn't gotten it done, he's shown signs that he can. Even though Allen hasn't gotten it done.
What signs? Joe Burrow hasn't thrown a fourth quarter touchdown pass. He hasn't thrown a fourth. he has not thrown a fourth quarter touchdown pass in the postseason. He's gone to the playoffs, 2 times in his entire career? Yeah. What did he get? He got defense, a Lou Anarumo defense who caused turnovers. They carried Burrow through those playoffs. I'm not saying Burrow did absolutely nothing, but this is the point. When we went to Tennessee and won that game, what did we do? We forced one freaking turnover. It's like, force me a turnover, to your point. 3-0 in Buffalo. If it's 2-1, we win that game by 10 points. We didn't punt. We didn't even punt the ball, and we still found a way to lose the game. It is not all Lamar. And people need to, and I get if they want to say the reason Lamar won't win is because they won't put the right roster around him. Well, I think Lamar deserves some blame too, because that roster in 23 is pretty damn
good. I mean,
good.
I've always said it. That team, if they won the Super Bowl, that has an argument to be a top 5 team ever. Look at the teams they beat, the point differential, their body work. They led the league, and I think yardage allowed on defense, points allowed, and turnovers. And then they had the MVP at quarterback. Like, that was the most complete team I've ever seen with my own team.
It was a damn good team, but you know what? They had to learn, and hopefully 25 is when they learn. And you know what? Unfortunately, if it's not 25, then we'll be right back here in 26 in the same situation. Because when Lamar's your quarterback, by the way, Joe Burrow's never won a Super Bowl, and he doesn't have a coach who's won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen's never won a Super Bowl, and he doesn't have a coach who's won a Super Bowl. And Allen hasn't even gone. The same as Lamar. There's, off the top of my head, what is there? 2 coaches in the NFL who have active Super Bowls, McVay and Reed. Is there anyone else?
McVay, Reed, Sirianni, and
Sirianni.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And then Peyton came back. And if you count Nick Sirianni having a Super Bowl, then you know what? Go enjoy that. If you think Nick Sirianni is the reason that team won a Super Bowl. So there's what? Once again, is there 3 active quarterbacks? And I guess Tyrod now who have a Super Bowl. So it's hard to win the Super Bowl. It's very hard.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing, and I want to pull up some comments here. This team is different because they aren't leaning on the offense like last year. They do have an easier schedule, but at the same time, they're getting better. 6 straight games with 20 or less points allowed for Baltimore, most consecutively, Jack, in 15 years. We're talking about the Ravens here, a team that's founded on defensive stardom. And this is the first time they've done that in 15 years. I like this. Ravens play better on the road, less pressure on them. I think that is an interesting point, right? When all the expectations are on you, look at how this team has crumbled. If they're on the road and they're a 4th seed and they're not the favorites, I mean,
that's more a Flacco thing and more like a pre-Lamar era thing. Like, let's be honest. If we're playing in an AFC championship and we go to Indy, you're telling me the pressure and the expectation isn't on Baltimore to win that game? Stop it, right? We would have had to have won 10 of 12 games, and we're playing freaking Daniel Jones in a dome for the first time. Lamar doesn't have to play outside where that South Florida guy gets so damn cold. As someone who moved down to Florida, I get it, but it's like 52 degrees in Baltimore, and you would think it was literally like the frozen tundra.
He walked in yesterday with 2 coats on, like a big heavy sweater and a coat in 60-degree weather.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, the pressure is going to be on because you have the best quarterback in football. So I don't. That statement, yes, it used to ring true. It doesn't ring true anymore. But you know what? That's another thing the Ravens have learned from is playing under pressure. There's no doubt that they hated being the front runner and having the target on their back. And now the expectation has shifted. Like, they know that that Burrow's coming back for this game and he wants to beat the Ravens. And they used to take that pressure and they used to push and they used to force. And then they go down 17 points last year in the same spot. And they're just relaxed. It's a different energy. They're not pressing as much. They have confidence. The team is. I like where the team is at. It's not perfect.
I think Jack, that only rings true now. It rings true against everyone but Kansas City. I think Kansas City is the only team that, for some reason, when they go down, whether it's the pressure of playing Mahomes on the other side or what Mahomes could do against his defense or what Spagnuolo can do against this offense, it feels like one mistake and this team just unravels against Kansas City. And that's the only thing. But this year, it may not need to go through Kansas City. And I still believe that, call me crazy and call me, say I'm living in the past, I still think that the AFC this season is going to come down to one of Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City. And unless New England is really the real deal, maybe they're in there too. Hate to burst the bubble of anyone. Bo Nix ain't going to the Super Bowl this year. Daniel Jones ain't going to the Super Bowl this year. Like, I don't care if the Chiefs are a 7th seed. They will be a favorite on the road against whoever they face. So for me, it's just, I still think that that is the monkey Lamar will probably need to get off his back. I mean, Mahomes has made 7 straight AFC championship games, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I do think you're right, though. I think this team is certainly trending in the right direction in terms of what variables you need to see to think they could go and win in the playoffs.
I'm ready for it. I'm excited. It's like every November, you know where the team's at. It's a good enough team to get it done. You almost want to just fast forward through it. But the thing I always remind fans is like, it's a gift and a pleasure to watch Lamar Jackson play football.
Yes.
And so you got to enjoy it, because I know this is sad at the same time. This is the best player that will ever play for your franchise, bar none, won't be close. If the Ravens ever have a better player than Lamar Jackson, then we will literally have 12 Super Bowls, because it's just not possible. So soak it all in. And then also think back a month ago when you were watching Cooper Rush or Tyler Huntley, and remember how fucking miserable that is. So enjoy your Thanksgiving night. Even if the Bengals put up 40, hopefully Lamar puts up 41 and we feel better.
You know what? The Cooper Rush thing, I'll never understand. I mean, he doesn't fit the system. It's $6 million. $6 million at the right guard spot would feel a lot better right now for this team instead of fa la 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 la. So I think that yes, guys, it's a joke. But I just think that, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with this team. I think you're right. We need to appreciate it. When I spoke with Jerry Sandusky, the voice of the Ravens, I asked him, this was before the 2024 year, like what happens if this team doesn't win at all? Like, what should the expectation be? And he's like, let's just enjoy it. Like, you're watching Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Like, let's just enjoy this. And I think that fans need to get to that point. Look, my tweet went viral to 100,000 views when I put out at the trade deadline that the Ravens fan base has become irrational and a little bit spoiled. And I'm not saying it was on Kyle Hamilton to say that, because when you're one of the defensive captains, I don't think you go out and say that. However, with that said, I think there's some validity to the statement that he made. This franchise is what? The third best winning percentage of all time. They're in the playoffs every single year. Like, this year it seems different because of the bad start, but like usually the playoffs are an afterthought in Baltimore. Like, the Ravens clinched the playoffs in August. Like,
people forget in between Flacco and Lamar, we used to battle for the wild card and for the division every year. Like, we were 1-5, and I didn't feel insane being confident we were going to go to the playoffs. But like, do you realize how ridiculous that is? Yeah, we are spoiled and we should be more appreciative. That doesn't mean we should lower expectations. The reality is that Ravens Twitter has turned into, because there's a couple personalities on there that love negativity and people love to get engagement and they love to pile on, that, it just spreads like wildfire. There's still good horses out there. There's still fun people to follow who will talk good ball, who will talk more positively. And it doesn't mean you have to never say anything poor, but they're like, once again, the Ravens win yesterday, and it's those accounts are just hammering you with Lamar didn't play well, he's injured, Faalele, missed block, all this stuff. It's like, you know what? I saw that he had some pretty good pass blocking reps. How about that? Like, he's not the devil as much as everyone seems to make it seem.
Right here, Jason Coburn. This is my father, by the way. Huge shout out to my dad for viewing and commenting.
What's up,
Pops? Alohi Gilman and Draymond Jones were great additions. Absolutely. And Jack, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I've been making this comparison. I just had this conversation with him last night. I think that not a lot of people wanted to bring up how important the Tre'Davious White trade was last year. It's not like Tre'Davious White came in and was an all-pro, but what he did is he allowed Kyle Hamilton to play back at safety, allowed Marlon Humphrey to play in the slot, and just allowed Zach Orr to have a little bit more flexibility in the way that he orchestrates his defense. I think Alohi Gilman does the same thing. Extra insurance at defensive back, very consistent. He's reliable. He's a veteran who's done this before, and it allows Kyle Hamilton to play where he wants and Marlon Humphrey to play where he wants, and it just gives Orr, again, more flexibility. I think those trades mirror each other a lot. Look at how the Ravens played defensively when they added Tre'Davious White last year at the deadline. Same goes for Alohi Gilman this year. So that was why I went nuts about that tweet as well, about how like the Ravens didn't need to go out and trade for Quinnen Williams or go out and trade for who else was it on the market, Max Crosby, whoever it was. I forget the exact players, the headliners of that deadline. But I kept saying that because the littlest moves, I'm not saying don't do anything, but the littlest moves can make an impact. Draymond Jones has been great in the pass rush. They're getting more pressure on the quarterback. Gilman's been great in the secondary. Like, you don't need to go out and trade your franchise for Quinnen Williams. You can make minor moves alongside an already pretty talented roster and, go win some football games. And so I just think that a lot of people love to think you need like a big move or whatever. You don't. And I just think that minor moves and minor additions like this, like adding Alohi Gilman, can make all the difference. And like Gilman has been outstanding for Baltimore. Kyle Hamilton barely plays safety anymore. He's inside at the edge rusher or slot corner or linebacker or whatever. And the defense is clearly finding more success with it. So great point out there, Pops. Alohi Gilman and Draymond Jones both have been fantastic.
And another one where EDC was getting killed for, right? Because he didn't make the right moves. He didn't sign the right people in the offseason, the Cooper Rush thing. And then it's like, here's two little chess moves. Maybe you captured someone else's pawns here, but they're meaningful pawns because what do? They unlocked my queen. And now my queen can roam the board. And that's exactly what Zach Orr's been doing. And I don't even want to downplay Draymond Jones, his own performance. That is the most explosive pass rusher and most disruptive pass rusher that I can remember since Terrell Suggs. Like, I'm not talking about Van Noy and Owe being able to amount for sacks because they stay in the rush lanes and every once in a while they have a rush. Every time I watch Draymond Jones rush the passer, it's disruptive. Even if he's not getting there, it's a pressure. He's pushing out of pockets. He's making an impact that the reason you don't get turnovers with players like Van Noy or Owe is because they're not disruptive, right? They can still get sacks and they can still put pressure on. And Matabike was disruptive to a degree, but there's also a difference about coming up the middle and your quarterback can see it and flood. When he's coming around that edge, it's moving you around, and now you can't look downfield, and now you can't make a play. And so I'm ecstatic over Draymond Jones, and it's also given Mike Green an opportunity to grow as a rookie as well, right?
Mike Green's been great since the bye week for sure.
And remember, it was bench Malachi Starks, worst pick ever, guys. They're rookies.
I said this. Nate Wiggins. This was the same storyline about Nate Wiggins last year, and now he's the fan favorite in Baltimore. Like, you got to give it time.
And that is the beauty. Look, you have to get to the playoffs, right? You can't give it time if you don't get to the playoffs. So I get why people are concerned. But now that they have the lead, it's like, all right, I know this may sound crazy, but the Ravens could actually be better by January, right? Like they're not even peaking yet. Draymond Jones could fit in more. Mike Green could get better reps. He could learn how to beat
Lamar Jackson could get healthy. I mean,
Lamar could get healthy. And yes, things could go wrong equally, but I think they're on a good path. And Thursday will be a great test for the Ravens.
I just think in terms of like, this Bengals defense is bad. If the Ravens offense doesn't do much, that's another signal of like, all right, maybe there is some serious problems with Baltimore's offense. Same goes for Baltimore's defense. It will kind of be a test. You're going against Joe Burrow, and we'll break down, we'll do an exact preview of that game later on in the stream. But, Jack, how dare I say this? I brought up, you mentioned that tweet from Kevin Ostreicher, who I've had on the show multiple times. Kevin's great. But that one post about like, what's your Ravens take that has you like this, with all the knives there, you're just standing there. And mine was that love Lamar, top 3 quarterback in the league, somewhere in that range, going to get Baltimore Super Bowl, but I don't think he is as good and people do this season, and people do not want to admit it. And maybe that's because of injuries or whatnot, but I'm looking at Lamar Jackson and I'm seeing, I'm looking at Lamar and I'm looking at 3 straight games with a completion rate below 60%. 2 of those games a passer rating below 80. 1 total touchdown in 3 games for a guy that's been, one of the most efficient in terms of, getting touchdowns in the entire NFL. Jack Settlement, how dare I say, does Baltimore at least temporarily have a Lamar Jackson problem?
No, it's not a problem. To make it seem like a problem would be insane. I guess more so if it's a problem that implies that maybe there's a better option. And I don't think that right. I'm pretty sure if Lamar wanted to flip to left-handed, I would still take him over Tyler Huntley. Is he playing the best of his career right now? I don't think so, but I don't think any Ravens fan would say no. And there were definitely some throws yesterday. Wow, it's only been 24 hours and it feels like Ravens Twitter is already, they wanted to kill themselves. Yesterday where like the footwork is bad and the accuracy on throws that I've watched him gradually get better at every year has disappeared. And some of that could be because he's skittish in the pocket because of a bad O-line. Some of it could be because of injuries. Some of it could be because Rashad Bateman's out and, he's got to find chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins. So, but I thought like Mark Andrews ran that crossing route in the first quarter. I don't know why he didn't sit down. Like, Mark normally sits, and Lamar and him have that telepathic connection. There's no problem. And I think that the Minnesota game was another one that I was actually so excited by, because that was like very Mahomes-like. He took everything that he needed to take. He beat the blitz in a multitude of ways. They found a way to put up. What'd they do? They scored 30 points in that football game?
Something like that, yeah.
27 points. So, yeah, sure, the last 2 weeks I get it. But also, the Cleveland Browns defense has given everyone fits. And especially when you have a bad O-line, the matchup actually becomes poor. And then the interceptions, one hits off Keaton's hands and one he dinks off an O-lineman's head. So it's not like he's making poor decisions. And then the Jets defense, I actually think they're a decent unit. They get put at a disadvantage. Eventually their offense has to move the ball, or their legs fall apart. So I think Cincy once again is a perfect test. But more reason to remember, like, not going to practice today, obviously, short week, and division opponent. So no matter how bad Cincy's defense is, they have seen Lamar 100 times, and you would think one time they're going to have at least something for him to slow him down. And so it wouldn't shock me if it wasn't the shootout that we all expect on Thursday night.
But here is the good news about Thursday's game, Thanksgiving's game. Between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, is that, we're talking about holidays and being festive or whatever, and it's nice. Lamar Jackson gets to enjoy Thanksgiving with his kids on the field. It's pretty fun. He's the father of Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, a 10-1 record against Cincinnati, a 6-1 record against Joe Burrow. So, it'll be festive to have Lamar be with his kids a little bit. It'll be great. But, you're right. And I hated when I put out that tweet about how he's not playing as well. And I literally say, top 3 quarterback in the league, going to win the Ravens a Super Bowl. And you talk about irrational Ravens Twitter. Like, people called me a hater. They said I hate Lamar. They said I shouldn't be a Ravens fan. They called me a clown. Like, it is crazy how irrational this Ravens Twitter can be. But, like, I have faith Lamar could turn it around. I know Lamar will turn it around. The one thing that does concern me is, like, Lamar doesn't just look a little bit slower. Like, he's slow. He looks slower than linebackers. Like, I've never seen Lamar chase down like that. And maybe that's a byproduct of injuries. Like, what's it now, a toe? Something new pops up every other day for Lamar Jackson at this point. So maybe it's injuries, but at the same time, all these injuries that pile up, at what point is he going to be, quote unquote, healthy? So I just think that I would love to see Lamar working great on the ground, because I don't think he needs to be a great runner to be a great thrower. But when you need to worry about him on the ground, it allows Lamar to have a little bit more freedom through the air, right? I've always said, like, there are probably other quarterbacks who are better, drop back, pocket passers, even though Lamar is great in that area. But what makes him so fantastic is his dual threat ability. So if you can at least get, you don't even need to run for a lot of yards, just the threat of Lamar's run a little bit more prominent, he'll start to look a little bit better. I think he will start to play better eventually. And I think it's great that Lamar Jackson's weakest stretch as a pro, really over the past 3-4 seasons, the Ravens are still winning those games. And there's an element to that, too, of, like, Lamar's bad doesn't seem as bad as it used to be, which allows Baltimore to be able to win, which is just, a testament to his consistency and what he's able to do in the football field. So I think it's a very, very interesting matchup. I hope Lamar Jackson just goes out there and really has a great game just to shut everyone up and really make that statement. I know it is a short week. He didn't practice today during the walkthrough, so we'll see what happens. But I do think Thursday's game will certainly be a great test. We do need to talk about this Bengals team, though, because they're not just any ordinary 3-8 football team. This is Cincinnati, and I think the Ravens, kind of put aside the Bengals games when they were thinking about how do you get to 10 wins in the playoffs, because they're like, well, Burrow's not going to be there. Well, the Bengals' call for help comes true. Burrow's coming back, and I don't want to call it a toss-up, but it feels a little bit more reasonable to pick Cincinnati when Burrow's on the other side.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, he's a great quarterback. And as much as, he might be Lamar Jackson's son, it's not like over the last couple of years that we son him by 20 points every week, right? Like, we have seen, we've seen these games come down to the absolute wire. Some of the most exciting football games that I've seen as a Ravens fan, and probably NFL fans have seen, which is why I think they're so excited for it. T. Higgins being out is not going to hurt the Ravens, that's for sure. And Hendrickson's going to sit again. Such an interesting situation there. But yeah, Burrow's back, and I really do think like we're not going to get the shootout that we expect, because I do think Lamar's hurt. I do think it's a short week. I do think divisional familiarity is going to come into play. And on the other side, I don't care that Joe Burrow is healthy. It's more he hasn't played a football game in 2 months, right? And this Ravens defense is peaking at the right time and playing really, really well. And so we saw Cincy and New England actually playing, for that team, a relatively low scoring game. And they got the run game going with Chase Brown, which wasn't something they have been doing all season. So I think we could get a much tighter game, which means whether or not the Ravens play well, fewer possessions and a close game. And I think it's going to be I'm not going to pick Cincy at the end of the day, but I agree. I think it's a toss-up. I think it's a coin flip. And it wouldn't shock me. I don't want to say the Ravens are going to mail it in, but it isn't, now that they're back up top, and you could almost argue that the game next Sunday, 10 days from now, is more important. So, like, let's say the Ravens went down the way they did against Cincy last Thursday night game. They might have just mailed it in, right? And like kind of tried to get through it, get everyone out as healthy as possible. It wouldn't shock me if they did that again, because 6-6 isn't a death sentence. At this point, they're going for the division, right? So Pittsburgh is the one that they need to beat. And then Pittsburgh's playing Buffalo this week. And so it's just the human nature of it. And this is the other thing fans forget, that me having spent time around the players, that I just feel like I have a little more context on. Like, these guys are humans. So if you're thinking it and you're feeling that way, they're also feeling that way. So yeah, I do get nervous about that mentality kind of seeping in and potentially happening. So the first quarter will be a big part of the energy and the momentum around the game.
Jack, I mean, yesterday was the first time I think this season I've heard John go, who's got it better than us? And I'm like, no, this hasn't worked for us. And, look, I went out and I live with it. And I said that I think, that maybe John Harbaugh is not the right man for the job. And I said that at the beginning of the season. And, I do commend him for what he's done, as of late with this team. I think the locker room trusts him again. I think his message is resonating again, like a lot of people didn't think. And I think the turnaround that he's had, the way that this team has looked on both sides of the ball since the bye week, I think is very impressive. And also, special teams coach, I think they've done a really solid job on special teams. I mean, Jordan Stout is the best punter in the NFL. Huge shout out to Jordan Stout, by the way. I mean, just a quick side note. But no, I do give a lot of credit to John. I still won't forget about dancing in the locker room after beating the Texans in the divisional round, and dancing when clinching the number 1 seed, while Andy Reid, they go and they win on the road, the Chiefs in Buffalo, and they go, we're not dancing, we have work to do. And then they go into Baltimore and win the next week. That will still, that'll never leave my mind. And that'll always be like, again, I'm not in the side of the Ravens locker room, but I don't want to see that kind of energy or mentality again, because while 6-6 ain't a death sentence, they certainly should not think 6-5 is the time to take the pedal off the metal. So I think they
do you want the ping pong tables back?
Oh my gosh, no, I do not want the ping pong tables back. And people were making fun of Lamar for doing that. Like, Lamar said he was about to take the TVs down. Like, it's not even allowed. Like, it was about to, like, I think Lamar, what he does as a leader is, it's this lock-in mentality. And have the ping pong tables been the reason why the Ravens won 5 games in a row? I have no idea. Probably not. I would bet against that idea, but it's worked. Whatever has happened, it's worked. And I think this team works better when, they're playing with their back against the wall, and, they're playing without the expectation, and they're playing when they need to win in these types of scenarios, and they're really locking in and not thinking about it as, they can cakewalk through a team. They're not that good right now to be able to do that. They couldn't do that to the New York Jets. They're not going to do that to anybody. So I think that mindset could be helping them down the stretch. As you said, I know you're a betting guy too. 51.5, bet the under for sure in that game. At least that's what the line is at now. Baltimore, Cincinnati, again, Burrow coming back from injury, Lamar dealing with injuries. I don't expect a shootout like many may think. And then the opening line, Baltimore -7. Does that seem like a lot to you? Like
it didn't shock me. It's the same line as Chicago and Philly. Let's remember, since he is 3-8, like they're
right.
3-8 ball club, and I know we're also talking about how they're, this isn't, but that's without Joe Burrow. Well, we've also seen it is with Joe Burrow, right? Like it wasn't a playoff team last year. It wasn't a playoff team the year before. And how much of an upgrade is Joe Burrow over Joe Flacco? It's an upgrade, and there's no doubt about that. But I don't know. They're just not a good football
Jack,
team.
we can go through it. They'd still beat the Steelers that one game with Burrow. They still would have lost to the Jets without Burrow. They gave up 39 points. They still would have lost to the Bears. So, a few of these games, particularly with Jake Browning, could be flipped, and maybe this team is more on the horizon of 500 than a 3-8 team. But no, you're right. I think a lot of these results, particularly those 3 games against Pittsburgh, New York, and Chicago, it's like, what would change if Burrow was on the field? It's the same story.
He's playing quarterback, not cornerback, because that seems to be their biggest issue. Under 51.5, Cincy +7. I do lean in that direction, but there is also the chance that Lamar has killed this team, and this defense is horrendous. So what if he just kills them and the Ravens defense plays another good game? And then it would feel weird, how you're saying you don't have the answers today, even though they've won 5 in a row. It would feel weird to watch them beat what would be a 3-9 team and be like, oh, the Ravens got their mojo back and the Ravens are a really damn good football team. It would feel weird, but that could be the case. We could wake up Friday morning and think, no, this might be for real.
Or I can wake up Friday morning and now want to wake up. So
yeah, that's true.
Or I can wake up and I'll be like, damn, that last night. But you know what? We'll see what happens. I can't go 0-2 on Thanksgiving. My high school team that I'm announcing the game for, they play on Thanksgiving, their big rivalry game. I can't.
Who's your high school team?
Fairfield. I'm in Connecticut, so it's Fairfield Ward High School against Fairfield Ludlow High School. Ward better get the W, or at least the Ravens need to win. Cannot have an 0-2 Thanksgiving. That just will not work for my mental state, considering how sports and football centric I am. I think this Baltimore team is certainly interesting, right? We'll see what happens. The one guy we haven't mentioned this entire stream, which we're 42 and a half minutes in, Derrick Henry, and a lot of people want to say that he's regressed. I think maybe he's a step slow compared to what he was last year, but I still think, given the offensive line and given not having Lamar Jackson, and when having Lamar Jackson as of late, not a fully healthy Lamar Jackson, with all those variables in play, he is braced for impact. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 6th in the NFL in yards. He's 6th in the NFL in yards, and it doesn't even feel like he's played that well. It doesn't feel like he's played that well, and he's 4th in the NFL among running backs in rushing touchdowns. So even though it feels like things haven't been going his way, he's still producing. And I actually think he's become really underappreciated from this Ravens fan base.
Derrick also tends to get going when it gets colder. And you actually don't need him in September. You need him in November and December and January, and hopefully for the first time February. And I think the real reason why is because of the fumbles. But there were a couple of times actually the last few weeks where I've seen the ball he's been in some, one of those ugly spots where Saquon fumbled last night, right? He doesn't sense the guy behind him, doesn't grip it tight enough, or is in a pile, and that's where people are punching the ball out. And he's held on to the ball. So he's holding on to the ball, and there's no question of his fitness, right? His workouts, that he's going to be okay. He is an alien. He's the only running back at this age that is still in that peak physical form. So yeah, he's looked a tiny bit slower, but wait till players start playing a little more injured the back half of the season, and maybe this O-line comes together and Lamar gets healthier. So you've got one less guy in the box who can defend Derrick. There's no one else that I would rather have. I don't want to say that. I'm very happy having Derrick Henry for this, hopefully, Super Bowl stretch.
I want to find, because I know Jeff Zaribek, he posts all the, the playtime percentages and everything. I saw it this morning. Pat Ricard, 38% playtime percentage against New York. That's way too low, because when he was on the field, he was fantastic. I know the Ravens had that one series inside the red zone or inside the 10-yard line where first down, second down, third down, they ended up scoring the touchdown on fourth down because the red zone has been a big problem for them. The common denominator on the first 3 downs, no Patrick Ricard on the field. Like, it almost feels like too simple. Maybe Ricard is part of the, maybe part of the reason why Henry wasn't really, kicking it into high gear in the beginning of the season. And I think Ricard is such a valuable player for the Ravens system, right? A team that likes to run the football, a team that likes to pound the rock. Patrick Ricard does so much there. And so I think the Ravens can still run the ball really well. Jack, it does concern me, and I'm going to go to you here. I mean, Faalele has not gotten any better. I know a lot of people love to hate on Andrew Voorhees because he's the other guard that was quote-unquote unproven. I actually don't think he's been terrible. I'm not going to act like Andrew Voorhees should be in all-pro conversations, but I actually don't think he's been too bad. I think Linderbaum is making mistakes because he's trying to mask for Faalele's issues. Rosengarten's just below average. What can you do? And then I think Stanley's great. But Faalele seems like a true weak link. Like, it's making Rosengarten worse. It's making Linderbaum worse. It's messing with the whole cohesion of the line. At what point do you try Emory Jones? And even if you go to an Emory Jones, does this line look any better? And like, I'm sorry, it's like so many questions just bouncing around. But like, if the line doesn't look better, can this team still reach its potential? So like, just your thoughts on really the offensive line, how you fix that.
So I've never felt more vindicated when Cleveland got dropped for Jones this week, because Ravens Twitter is screaming at me saying that Harbaugh has an agenda against Ben Cleveland, that he has to play Faalele. Like, I've heard everything under the sun, and I kept saying, trust me, I'm not denying how poor his play is, but think about it. Think about it logically. If I see it, you see it. Do you think John Harbaugh sees it? Okay, let's all agree on that. Think about how bad Ben Cleveland had to be to not be able to get a rep.
Right.
Right.
And that's what's concerning me, though. Is like, if they make a change, like, if he doesn't feel confident to make a change with the product that's been on the field, like, that's like, who are they?
That is scary. Now, on the flip side, Emory Jones gets called up, and it's one of the only timelines that I feel like Harbaugh has been accurate and truthful on, which was like, he kept saying, Emory's not ready. Okay, Emory's ready. Okay, Emory gets put on the active roster. And I think we're going to get into this interesting kind of like timeline where you don't want to make the move. You probably don't want to make the move like week 17, right? Like, at some point there is the value and the continuity, and Linderbaum knowing when he is going to have to help the guy next to him, and when if they're rushing from the interior, like, we are going to have to keep Justice Hill in, and we can't send him out for the pass. So there is some value in that. I think another thing, and this attaches to not only the Ravens offensive line, the blocking, but Henry, maybe looking slower, or Lamar not being a running threat. Now it's forcing Monken to call an offense, and so you got to hope that come playoff time and everyone gets healthy. Now you actually just have more red zone options, right? Like, the whole Mark Andrews sneak, but also the hurricane play, that all came out of, okay, we know we need to be sneaking in short down situations. We can't run with Derek, and we obviously don't want to use our quarterback. And they created an entire package that actually won us a whole football game because of it. So if let's go under the assumption that Faalele is the starting guard for the rest of the season, because as much as Ravens fans don't want to accept that, it is the most likely outcome just based on what they've shown us time and time again, right? Can you win with a weak link? I think so. I think Eagles fans are, I think last year's Eagles teams, like, people think that's the quality of a team that won a Super Bowl. That's not the case. Every team has a weak link, and what the best coaches and the best teams do is they expose it when they're playing against it, and they hide it when they're playing with it. And so if that's your question over whether Harbaugh should be the guy, or Zo, or Monken, that is actually probably the fairest assessment, which is, I don't trust Todd Monken to hide 77 come playoff time. If that's your assessment and why you want Monken fired, you know what? All the power to you. I have more faith.
I like Monken. I really do. I think Monken is hated too greatly. I think Monken is like, look at what Lamar Jackson's done through the air with Todd Monken. Like, I think Todd Monken is more of an offensive mastermind than people want to give him credit for.
I completely agree. So to answer your question, yes, they absolutely can. And until they got Draymond Jones, I thought the biggest flaw on the team was the pass rush.
Yeah.
Right. And so
because the pass rush makes everything worse. People don't talk about this. When you don't get pressure on the quarterback, the secondary can't hold up. They can only hold up for so long. So like, the pass rush is kind of the glue to the whole defense. Now that has looked better, it gives the secondary a little bit more flexibility.
Exactly. And so, is it going to get better? I would bet on no. Is he going to be the guard? I would bet on yes. So they got to learn how to play with it and how to hide the flaws and how when that is like this is the thing about the NFL playoffs and any playoff system. There is this incredible talk at the MIT Sloan Conference. It's Bob Myers. It's who else is on the panel? It's a bunch of basketball minds, right? And they're talking about the difference between playoff basketball and regular season basketball. And in regular season basketball, you play the Celtics on Tuesday night, and then you take the train down to Philly, and you play the Sixers on Thursday night. And the scouting report looks like this. Here you go, scouting report. Okay, I'm guarding 77. Edgecombe likes to drive right, likes to shoot. Okay, I'm gonna stand on his right. Okay. Then in the playoffs, you play 7 games, right? And so you're scouting the same player, you're playing against them every night, night in, night out. And I know that's not the same in football where it's one and done, but the level of scout and the level of preparation, and they talk about the best playoff players. It's not that they have a counter, right? So it's not that, okay, you like to go right, you're going to go left. It's also, I'm going to stop you right, and I know you're counter to the left. It's that third counter. And so there's just a different level. And the Ravens playing in the playoffs year in, year out, what they need to do is have that third counter. They need to not only have a plan for when they're going to put Chris Jones over top of 77, they're also going to have a plan when they flip him on the other side and it's on Voorhees. And then they need to have a third plan when they're going to bring their edge inside. And we need to, that is where the coaching comes into play, but it's also the players and it's also preparation. And so, yeah, you're never going to have the perfect roster, right? Like, that it's kind of it's a fallacy that, oh, the Ravens are flawed in this one position, so they can't win a Super Bowl. No, it's more often that the team who hides their flaws is actually the one who wins it, unlike the Eagles last year, who were just built around the park, right? They just were.
For sure. You can't be a perfect team every season. The Ravens had one a few years ago. They didn't get it done. So now you got to work with what you got. And again, look, everyone can complain $6 million on a right guard that was given to Cooper Rush would feel really great right now. Not going to lie to you, or the $4 million that was given to Jair Alexander, $10 million on a guard would sound awesome to me, but they didn't. And so now you're right. You got to work with what you have. And so Jack Settleman, 8:53 p.m., 52 minutes. We're soon going to wrap this up, but just overall, I know it's so hard to look ahead, and I know you see, the NFL's so open. It's a week-by-week league. The narrative, the storylines, they change every week. Is the Lombardi finally coming home? If we do this next time next year, is Lamar Jackson wearing a number 1 on his jersey?
Oh, I'm excited for that day. It is tough because I think out of all the things about Lamar, the one thing that we always could oddly enough say is he was actually like 100% healthy in every playoff run. Like, weirdly enough, like that was where the health was. When he got hurt, he would miss the playoffs, right? Or the Ravens would miss the playoffs. But when he was, and so I don't know if they're going to be able to get him right and combine an unhealthy Lamar with the O-line. And I do think that can be problematic. And if it was one game, right, if Lamar was unhealthy and I was like, all right, whatever Mahomes took you that halftime of Super Bowl, like shoot him up with the same shit and let's roll him out there. We're going to have to go on the road.
It's like 4 different injuries now. It's the hammy, it's the ankle, the knee, the toe. It's like,
right. It's starting to add up. It's like the college football 26 graphic where the players got red all over their body. But 10 days and a good cold tub with a massage, after Cincy, maybe he starts to feel better. I don't know how his body's going to react. This is probably the first year in a long time that in my gut, I didn't feel like we were going to win the Super Bowl. So maybe that's a good thing.
Right. I mean, right. Everything seems different from the previous teams, but even though the previous teams seem good, they didn't get it done, right? Like,
right. So at this point, I would say I don't fear a single team in the NFL. That's for sure. I know the Rams look like the best team, but
Ravens would have beaten the Rams if they played Tyler Huntley. Like,
exactly. So it is so week by week. It is like we almost have the perfect schedule, right? While we have a weaker schedule over the next few weeks, it's divisional opponents, it's familiarity, it's what we're gonna do this time around is put all the demons to bed right? The blown leads put to bed. The divisional opponent on the road who we can never beat. The Pittsburgh sweep that we can never get done. Like, we're just stacking up the demons. We're keeping them in the closet. We're locking them away. And I don't subscribe to the camp who's like, well, if I'm going to win the Super Bowl, I want to beat the best. I watched Joe do it. I don't give a shit. Give me fucking Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl. Sign me up. Whatever is the easiest path. I am all
Jack,
for.
Jack, I tell you what's funny. If Lamar somehow makes the Super Bowl or wins the Super Bowl without beating Joe Burrow, I'm just telling you what the narrative is. If he doesn't beat either Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in the playoffs, I'm just letting you know the entire narrative would be the entire year Lamar still hasn't proved it.
Care.
I'm not saying we don't care. I'm just telling you it's going to be so frustrating if that's the case.
No, but I want to clip this and say it's November 24th. I don't care. Literally, I will beat the Little Sisters of the Blind if they somehow become an NFC team between now and February. I don't care. I want to win the Super Bowl. I don't give a shit. I want to see 8, who will then shortly be 1, lift the Lombardi. That is all I care about. I don't care.
I would cry. I think I'd literally cry.
If the refs are fucking paid off like they were for the Saints Rams in 21, whatever the fuck the year was, I don't care if it's a bad call. I just want to win the Super Bowl. So give me this path. Give me Trevor Lawrence in the wild card round. And then fly me to, we would be the 4. So in theory, I guess we're playing the 1. Let's go to Indy. And then give me fucking Drake May. Like, I don't care who we play. I just want to win. That's all that matters to me. I don't care about narratives. I just want to win.
It would just be insane that it would honestly be fitting for a guy who the goalposts always move for him if they somehow moved one more time when he won a Super Bowl. It would just frankly fit Lamar's storyline. But you know what? He'll continue to prove the doubters wrong. Real quick before we wrap it up, I will say this. You mentioned how this team feels different. In every single year where Lamar Jackson's really been healthy on the field, maybe minus 2020, but in 2019, 2023, and 2024, I genuinely believe that the Ravens were always the better team on the field. That doesn't always mean they're going to win every game, but they were always the better team on the field. Yeah. They would sometimes make self-inflicted errors and play down to competition and all of that, but they were always the better team on the field. I don't think that this year. While I don't fear anybody, as you mentioned, I don't go onto a football field and I'm not like, yeah, the Ravens are definitely the better team. Like when they played Detroit, I don't care about the defensive starters that were out. They were not the better football team on that field. They were the better football team against Buffalo. They were the worst football team against Kansas City. Like it doesn't feel like the Ravens are a superior team against high-level competition like we've seen before.
Yeah,
so I don't think the team is overall as good. But again, those teams still didn't get it done. So for me, you're right. This team has enough talent. If Lamar gets healthy, they have the quarterback. It's just a matter of, do they have the mental toughness, and do they have, going back to the beginning, your first answer, do they have the characteristics to go and get it done in the playoffs? And that will decide the season. Not that Fa'alele is at right guard. Not that CJ Okoye is, part of the interior of the defensive line. Not that Kyle Hamilton's playing X, Y, and Z, or not that LaJohntay Wester's returning punts, or any other narrative that people have tried to push. It's not going to have to do with the talent on the roster. The talent is still good enough. It's not what it was previously, but it's still good enough. At some point, it's about mental toughness and characteristics that are going to decide whether you win in the postseason. The Chiefs weren't that good last year. They made a Super Bowl. They weren't that good the year before. They won the Super Bowl. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. It's the way that you operate in the playoffs. They have enough. It's just about whether they're going to be able to get the job done. It's not going to be a personnel issue. It's going to be collectively as a team. Can they be cohesive enough to go all the way? Do I have an answer about whether they will be cohesive enough to go all the way? No, I don't. I have absolutely zero clue. I have no idea who's going to win the Super Bowl this year. I mean, literally, all I do is sports announcing. All I do is watch football, and I have no idea who's good. I mean, I'd have to say the Rams, but I think they're even flawed. I have no idea who's good. Maybe this is Baltimore's year. Maybe it's not. I have no idea, but those are going to be the variables that go and decide the season.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Happy Thanksgiving, Chase. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Singular food.
I guess you can go turkey. I mean, I know it's basic, but how about you?
I'm a stuffing guy. I love the stuffing.
Not a stuffing guy myself.
I'm a stuffing guy. I'll be excited. Yeah, Christmas was fun last year with the Houston game, and hopefully Thanksgiving is equally as fun this year.
You know what was equally as fun as that? 1 hour of talking Ravens football with Jack Settleman on the podcast. So, Jack, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. Folks, if you're doing this, of course, I'm sure you're following Jack Settleman and Snapback Sports. If for some reason you're not, I don't know what you're doing. So go over, follow Jack, follow Snapback Sports, doing some great things. And, of course, guys, just know Ravens Twitter is irrational. We're very crazy fans. Just stick with us through the ride, and we're going to go and make things happen. Jack Settleman, an hour, 35 seconds. Thank you so much for taking the time here today. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up here. Ravens, Bengals on Thanksgiving. Stay tuned for more content on the channel as we prepare for what is now week 13 of the NFL season, and many more to come. So alongside Jack Settleman of Snapback Sports, I'm Chase Coburn saying so long. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And as always, go Flock.